welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week, and this is going to be the astro weather for the week of May 11th through the 18th, 2025. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm back at it with another video, and I'm here to help you take a look at the transits for the week ahead and plan. We're going to be putting a special emphasis on the Sun conjunct Uranus in Taurus this week. So we're going to be diving deep into what might feel like a bit of a roller coaster week. Now, obviously with Uranus, we're always feeling that kind of vibe of transformative, unpredictable changes, right? So roll with the punches as we see the Sun come into conjunction with Uranus and Taurus. This will be happening around 27 degrees. So if you have any personal planets there, a sun, moon, or rising, definitely pay a close attention, because I feel like this transit's going to be stealing the spotlight this week. Obviously, this is going to ignite some sudden change, perhaps innovation, as well as breakthroughs when it comes to stability, resources, and values, all of the keywords when we think about Taurus. We'll also be experiencing a full moon in the sign of Scorpio, which will be taking place on May the 12th. This is going to really kind of unearth and excavate lots of deep-seated emotions and also major revelations. And then finally, we're going to see a really beautiful fire trine that's going to be taking place in the skies that'll get triggered when the moon goes through Sagittarius. And we will see Venus and Mars in a trine to one another, which obviously, midweek, this can really fuel passion, relationships, and pivotal decisions. So the week is really going to wrap up with a moon transit in the sign of Aquarius. It will be in conjunction to Pluto. We're also going to see this kind of amplify some intensity, some disclosure, and it's just quite the week. So expect surprises, major awakenings, as well as a push to break free this week. Anything that has been making you feel limited, pushing through stagnation, and obviously we're going to feel a little bit balanced towards the end of the week with some help from the moon going through the sign of Capricorn. Now, if you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, click the subscription button below, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed and click that bell button. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and make sure you leave me a comment below. Consider sharing this on your socials, and equally follow me on X at BTVAstro. If you guys stay tuned to the end of this video, I'm going to take you through the 12 rising signs and share some predictions for what unexpected things I think you might be dealing with this conjunction this week. Now, honestly, this is interesting. I was thinking about when the last time we had like a major conjunction to Uranus, and it kind of reminds me of July of 2024. Actually, Mars was conjunct Uranus July of 2024, so it's right around the same degrees. Obviously, lots of kind of explosive things happening in the world back then. I don't need to give you guys the laundry list. So you might kind of feel like there are similarities connected to this transit. Now, I think the significance of the conjunction between the Sun and Uranus, which will be exact right around the 17th, really is about merging the Sun. So the Sun's going to be about vitality. It can be about leaders. It can be about identity, with Uranus, which is the rebel, the revolutionary energy that can feel very erratic. It can also really be different because it's in an earth sign. So what's usually stable suddenly kind of kicks up a little bit. And Uranus is not entirely too happy in this sign because Taurus wants stability. Now, because Taurus is associated with stability as well as Venus, there's going to be direct connections to values, banking, resources, finances, as well as agriculture and any sensual pleasure. But Uranus is going to rock the foundation of some of these topics this week, likely with sudden shifts as well as technological leaps forward, maybe some unconventional ideas, maybe some complete kind of erratic stuff going on in the market. And I do think the positive side of this transit is that really this is about sparking breakthroughs in how we approach security as well as our value systems. So often, this will happen through unexpected events and bold innovations, kind of twists and turns that kind of unfold throughout the week ahead. Now, how this is going to play out in the world? Well, first things first, any astrologer will tell you trying to predict things with Uranus is a very difficult and sometimes not intelligent thing to do because it zigs and it zags. Right when you think it's going to go left, it goes right. But something that we often see, especially with Uranus in the sign, when there are conjunctions, which is like the most extreme aspect in astrology, some kind of economic disruption usually kind of comes about. So definitely the financial markets, the banking sector, cryptocurrencies, supply chains, these might kind of face sudden volatility. So we might see that this week. And Taurus governs tangible assets. So shifts specifically in the earth, sometimes minerals, it can be real estate, agriculture, and banking is definitely likely. Now we can also see technological breakthroughs. Uranus can be very tech savvy, so it can usher in new sustainable ways of farming, news revolving around, energy, and also decentralized finance. So if you're kind of like a crypto nerd, you might hear some interesting stuff about that this week. And obviously Uranus has a connection in its modern day sense to Aquarius. So there's also some kind of like cultural shift that can happen around these transits. We can see that there can be societal pivots that can kind of happen revolving around values. We also see sometimes major fluctuations where, people are kind of boycotting certain companies, buying certain products, and you see kind of extreme one way or the other. And that's connected to sometimes movements that kind of happens out in the world that can be dealing with conscious living, redefining also luxury brands and anything revolving around things that are valuable. Now, sometimes we see environmental surprises. So earthquakes obviously can be one, and other geological events. Also, we can see unexpected weather patterns that can kind of take place. Taurus is going to deal more with, I think, earthquakes, volcanoes, things that are also connecting to structure of buildings, okay? Because Uranus is also an aspect to Saturn. So if things are kind of giving way or breaking down, we can see that impact not just buildings and foundations, but also it can be connecting to bridges, waterways, levees, dams, those kinds of things. So watch for that. Now, to navigate this energy, first things first is this is happening in a fixed sign. Fixed signs, they don't want to change. They want to stay the path. And what I have found with Uranus and Taurus over the last several years is that actually being too rigid and holding on to certain things or certain belief systems or ways of being will create lots of tension. It'll create tension to the point where when we have squares and conjunctions with Uranus, all of a sudden it just cracks wide open and there is like almost like a meltdown event. So I think that the key here really is staying flexible. You never really know what you're going to get with Uranus. Obviously, this is a planet that thrives on change and maybe taking a walk on the wild side. So what we really want to do is we want to release rigid plans and embrace adaptability. We want to embrace some of the changes that are coming in the future. Later this summer, we're going to see Uranus briefly leave the sign of Taurus and go into Gemini. So right now, the next couple of months feel like the grand finale of Uranus's transit through this sign over the last several years. I would encourage you guys also to innovate wisely this week. We're going to be rethinking our resource management or financial strategies, but we really want to avoid reckless risks, okay? Because we might feel a little bit more likely to take risks during these transits. Granted, Venus is the ruler or the dispositor of Uranus, and it's going to be in a trine with Mars and Leo. So some people are going to be seeing opportunities to kind of buy in, get into the markets, take those risks. We're also going to see the moon in Capricorn, which I think is going to be very grounding, making some trines to both the sun as well as Uranus and Taurus. So we can actually take some of these innovative ideas and put them into long-term plans. Changes with our money, our food, our spending, as well as our jobs can likely be supported from these transits. Now, we also want to ground ourselves because Taurus is obviously a fixed earth sign. So, Taurus craves stability. So we want to practice things like meditation, gardening, mindful eating, anything that you can do to keep you centered, taking, a walk outside, kicking your shoes off and hanging out in the grass, practicing some yoga, carrying your crystals. Those kind of things can really help you this week as we kind of feel the wobbles that are going to come from this conjunction. And I think most important overall is prepare for surprises. You will actually see a full moon in Scorpio that's going to take place this week, and the moon will oppose the sun. That is the full moon. And shortly after the full moon, we will see the moon in Scorpio come into opposition with Uranus. That is going to start, I think, the momentum of the shocks and surprises in our own lives, but also, out in the world. So Cultivate a calm mindset, to handle unexpected situations that can kind of come up and navigate some of these plot twists with grace. Now, the conjunction is going to be happening around 27 degrees of Taurus. So like I said, if you have anything 26, 27, 28 degrees of Taurus, sun, moon, rising, even a personal planet, this is a place that you want to be paying attention to because you're under a Uranus transit. Now, 27 degrees, obviously, like I said, it is the later degrees of Taurus. It's in the third decan. It's wrapping up its tour before it goes into Gemini later in July. And for me, this brings a sense of urgency. It's like it needs to complete some of the lessons throughout the last several years in this sign. So it's kind of signaling to me a culmination that is taking place. Now, if you follow degree astrology, 27s always connect and correlate to the energy of Gemini, which might represent two different paths. Do I do this or that? It can be about communication. It can be about traveling. Ironically, we're kind of seeing the conjunction happening right around the time that we're seeing that real ID taking place. Uranus can be about air travel. Taurus is about what's physical and tangible. 27 degrees deals with documents. So I think a lot of it might be connected and correlating to that if that's something that you guys have been kind of following in the news. I think in this case, it's really infusing the transit also with Gemini's more kind of intellectual curiosity, and it can be about adaptability and also have a focus on communication. So I'm expecting lots of sudden insights, breaking news, information, obviously tech-driven changes that can be happening. And the Gemini undertone really kind of encourages us to focus on quick thinking, but it warns against scattering our energy in too many places at one time. Mind your emails, your text messages, your phone calls. Don't be surprised if there's some shocking news or unexpected kind of contact. Check your spam boxes and stuff like that because there might be emails that you missed that suddenly you find and you're like, whoa, I didn't even see this. Okay, it pays to be prepared, I think, with some of these Uranus transits. Now, the Sabian symbol that we would then read would be 28 degrees of Taurus because we round up when we read the Sabians. So I will read that to you guys. And the 28th degree in the Sabian symbol is a woman pursued by mature romance, and the keyword is persuasion. The theme is no time like the present. The symbol speaks to the appreciation and the fact that there is no point beyond which fullness of life cannot be experienced. It also speaks to faith and refusal to accept defeat or loss at the end of a matter. The image of a woman pursued by a mature romance expresses the deeper joy to be found and experienced when it comes after its appointed time has passed. There's no time like the present for seizing opportunity. The potential exists so it can be realized. At its highest, it speaks to the unquenchable hope, patience, and refusal to recognize limitations. The negative aspects can be disillusionment, and a refusal to take a chance or a willingness to accept a lesser than what is available today, rather than wait for a better that may come tomorrow. The accent is on serendipity. Something you may have given up on may suddenly appear on your doorstep. The greatest advantage lies in recognizing opportunity. When it knocks, everything comes at its own appointed time. Guard against giving up too soon or accepting second best because you're afraid you won't get what you really want. Interesting. So, I feel like this symbol is really about this revitalization that can happen through unexpected connections and experiences. And it can be something that can be shocking. I think the alignment with the Sun and Uranus is kind of bringing this theme of breaking free, like I said, from stagnation, but it's also about embracing change and rediscovering, new things or vitality. So in a Taurus context, it could manifest as a renewed approach to relationships, maybe finances, even your self-worth. And this could be sparked by sudden liberating events. So I think this symbol is really inviting us, to be open to some of the transformative experiences and also be open to rekindling passion as well as purpose. So you're going to have to look at where in your chart Taurus is. That's probably where you're going to see that shock and surprise. Maybe think back to what happened last spring when we had this conjunction in 2024, as well as July of 2024 when we saw Mars and Uranus in conjunction as well, because I think there's going to be some similarities there. Anyway, Let's get on to the week ahead. We're going to start with today, Sunday, May the 11th. So if you guys are a part of my Astro Sunday crew, thank you guys for joining me. Happy Sunday. I'm always interested to hear what you guys are drinking. I like take little notes like, oh, that sounds good. So let me know what you guys are drinking, what you're doing. You guys in your jammies? Are you cleaning the house? If so, I'm happy to be here with you. You guys wake up and the moon is in Scorpio, and I'm sure you can feel it. We are coming into the full moon energies now. So over the next 2 days, you're going to be feeling the impact of that kind of moon going through a Pluto-based sign, which is really about change, purging, and transformation. So the energy is going to feel a little intense. Whenever we're looking at the moon in Scorpio, we're keeping an eye on Pluto and we're keeping an eye on Mars. And yet another just beautiful Sunday where we see some kind of uncomfortable aspects that are kind of setting up. If you guys are watching early in the morning, you missed the moon square Pluto, but it still might be lingering. And the moon is also going to come into a square with Mars. And squares are Mars aspects. They represent friction. They represent kind of conflict. It's about pushing through something. So by sign, okay, we have got a grand fixed cross. Moon opposing Mercury, kind of late last night, early this morning. Not great for communication. Probably could have been some arguments last night. Then we have the moon square Pluto this morning, which is about emotional kind of turmoil and purging and things that are kind of changing with the collective and how we're reacting or responding to that, especially when it comes to our security. And then the moon is going to come into a square with Mars. The fact that we're going to see all of these squares happening coming into the full moon tells me that this one's going to be a bumpy one. So I'm filming this days before. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to tell you guys, pay attention to what kind of plays out around the full moon, because it's going to be the setup for, okay, there was some kind of crisis or intense, ending or situation that is paving the way for these new innovations and how we're going to physically, change and move forward, how this impacts our self-esteem, our resources, our planet later this week. So we got a lot of moon aspects that are going to happen. For me, the energy feels a little intense, a little confrontational. Scorpio's emotional depth, it's going to clash with Mars in Leo. And that's very much about having like a fiery ego or wanting to play or wanting to be dramatic. So what you're going to see this morning into the afternoon, that it's going to kind of stir up some power struggles, and it can also boost confidence and self-esteem. I think it can be about bold self-expression. So my advice is do something creative to kind of help offset some of these energies. We are nearing that full moon, so you guys are going to feel the sensitivity, what to expect for later today. Maybe conflicts over recognition or control, deep emotions that are really going to demand honesty, especially since the moon has been in an opposition to Mercury. And we're going to see later this week, Mercury's coming into a square with Pluto. So there's going to be some intense conversations going on. Some people are going to feel like people are prying or they're digging too much or they're asking too many questions. Out in the world, it's like information drop, news drop, exposure, things like that are going to be happening. So how to navigate this on Sunday, channel this passion into something creative, maybe get active, be physical, have an outlet, avoid petty arguments because we will see some of them. That's going to be setting up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and prioritize authenticity. I think that's the best way to kind of work with this incoming trine between Venus and Aries, as well as Mars and Leo, right? We want to make lemonade. We might see a bunch of squares and the moon's going to, move pretty quickly. So it's not going to be like this all day, but you are going to see this the morning going into the mid-afternoon. All right. So the moon will continue to go through Scorpio. You're not really going to see too much else happening. It looks like it'll come into the square with Mars right around midday. And then we are going to see the moon be relatively unaspected after that. So the second half of Sunday, the 11th, is a little bit easier to navigate. Now, this will take us into May the 12th, which is going to be Monday. And when we wake up in the morning, that moon is still in Scorpio. Okay. Not really doing much other than, this will be the full moon that we're going to have on Monday. That full moon's going to be at 22 degrees. So if you have anything around 21, 22, 23 degrees of Scorpio, pay close attention. This is a full moon that feels very personal to you. As I said, we're always taking a look at what's going on with Mars and what's going on with Pluto. Well, the moon squared both of them, so likely it brought up some of the friction maybe Sunday coming into Monday. And there's nothing really going on with Mars or with Pluto. However, Mercury is squaring Pluto. So something that you guys are going to kind of feel in the air on Monday morning is not only the buildup to the full moon, but we're going to see that Mercury is in a square to Pluto in Aquarius. The only kind of saving grace is as we get to post full moon, which will be like later on Monday night, you're going to see the moon start coming into some trines with the North Node as well as Saturn. And that might kind of help us stabilize a little bit, but it's also like, well, that happened, time to let this go. So I get the vibe that once we get past the full moons, let me show that to you guys. So it looks like the Mercury square Pluto is going to be almost exact during the full moon. And that's why I feel like this full moon, people are going to be like, hearing about some kind of, disclosure, or there's some kind of shocking, surprising news. Likely it's about money in the banking sector, the future also of connection to technology, cryptocurrencies, political people weighing in on something that's going on with, resources, banks, tariffs, that kind of stuff. Taurus is also about the bond market. So I keep thinking we're going to hear some stuff about that. But that moon is at 22. And look at this. It's going to be like almost exact, the square between Mercury and Pluto. Maybe think back to 6 months ago when you had the new moon in Scorpio, what seeds you were planting. If you guys caught my full moon in Scorpio video, I actually go through it and I talk about how there's very similar aspects that we saw 6 months ago, which was kind of pointing to, change. So, things are a little intense. And I don't think that until we get into the trine with the North Node, which will be in the PM hours, that things start to stabilize. Okay, moon trine North Node, it's like we can release and we can let things go, we can let things dissolve. And then the moon's also going to trine Saturn, so we feel a little bit more emotionally resilient. On the other hand, my rational brain is like, but the moon's in opposition to Uranus. So, Monday night markets are closed, but I would be keeping my eyes peeled Sunday, Monday, even into Tuesday morning in regards to cryptocurrency markets. If you're somebody who's into that, or if you want to look at the after hours or things like that, even pre-market on Tuesday, because there's a lot of financial things that get kicked up under a full moon in Scorpio. So to me, it feels on one hand kind of cathartic when we start seeing the trines to the North Node in Saturn, and that we're having major revelations. The full moon is going to illuminate things that have been hidden truths. And that's obvious with the Mercury square Pluto. So with the moon coming into an opposition with Uranus, this is definitely going to deliver some shocks and for some people, some breakthroughs. Now, Mercury square Pluto will spark intense conversations or power dynamics. So Monday is not my favorite day for meetings, for giving people deadlines, for being forced to sign contracts, for demanding that somebody calls you back. You might notice that there are some people kind of pushing your buttons in that way. I would just say, don't play into the power dynamics. Lean more into the moon's trine with the North Node and Saturn, which is going to offer you, a willingness to release things, let things go, meditate on it, get some sleep. And also it can be great for kind of spiritual grounding. What I'm expecting for Monday is relationship or financial revelations, sudden perspective shifts, and also transformative insights. To navigate Monday, embrace vulnerability and release any emotional baggage. Full moons in Scorpio are great for that. Yes, we do some ugly crying. There is some secrets that come out. We feel emotionally kind of betrayed sometimes or wounded one way or another. But if we stay open to some of the unexpected changes, we can get that information and then go, okay, what am I going to do about it? And the what am I going to do about it will come later in the week when you start seeing the moon trining the sun and Uranus and Taurus. So hold tight. You'll get opportunities to kind of work through that as the week goes on. All right, so the moon's going to keep going through Scorpio into the PM hours. Maybe a trine with Saturn can be some really prominent dreams. Cord cutting, banishing rituals, cleansing, all that stuff. Love it for Monday night. Such a good time to do that with the full moon in Scorpio. But when we wake up in the morning on the 13th, which will be Tuesday, now we've got the moon in Sagittarius. So a little bit easier to navigate. Obviously, Sagittarius has that connection, correlation with Jupiter. So worldly matters, legal matters, travel, education, philosophy, that all kind of gets kicked up when we see this lunar transit And, it's a more positive sign, and we're going to see better aspects that are going to be happening with the moon here as well. Right off the bat, first thing in the morning, the moon is going to be trining Neptune, and it's also going to start coming into a sextile with Pluto and Aquarius. After that, we will see the moon building into a trine with Venus, and kind of the end of the day going into what will be Wednesday, a trine with Mars. And this is where the fire trines kind of kick up. So after all that emotional heaviness of like the Scorpio full moon, now we're kind of going into problem solving mode. We're being optimistic about some of the things that have happened, and we're ready to kind of kick things into full gear. So what I'm kind of feeling like with this is that on Tuesday, there is this feeling of expansive energy. We're more optimistic. The grand fire trine is going to fuel inspiration. It's going to bring up opportunities for creativity, bold action. The only thing that I'm kind of like about is that we are going to see on Tuesday that the moon is going to start coming into an in conjunct and a quincunx with Mercury. So still communication isn't sitting quite right. There can be some challenges here. The moon in Sagittarius is also putting emphasis on Jupiter, which is a new territory. It's making its way through the final degrees of Gemini. So it's also completing a cycle. Gemini is all about communication and short distance travel, contracts, learning. It can be about language. It can be about also like applications and media. And right now, the Jupiter square, the north and south node, is being pretty felt. May is a month of, I would say, growing pains. I haven't made a video on this yet. I am going to talk about this probably in the next week or so, because from an evolutionary standpoint, I think it's important to really recognize that Jupiter is debilitated, right? It feels like it's kind of doing too many things at one time. Mutable squares represent change of seasons. It can also represent change in certain dynamics and certain things coming to an end. So this is going to emphasize out in the world where media, information, news, communication, things might feel like they're being overly, over the top, or stories are being embellished, or that we've never seen so much polarity in terms of like perspective. We can also feel like it's so much more important to communicate, integrate, and learn. So there's some growing pains going on wherever Jupiter is in your chart, and it's still slightly in a square to Saturn, but not as intense as it's been in previous months. Anyway, so putting that all together, yes, the moon is going to trine Neptune. We can feel a little bit more inspired. It'll also trine Venus, so it can be a little bit more loving, but in a action, passionate oriented way. And the trine to Mars is doing the same thing. But don't lose sight of the Jupiter square. Maybe you'll notice on the 13th that you're just like, this is just so prominent for me. I just feel like I have to do this thing. And it'll kind of kick up a little bit, right? And for some of us, it's like traveling, booking flights, all that stuff. So the north and south node squaring Jupiter, I think, is also about emphasizing choices, right? Between growth and destiny, north and south node. So I'm expecting on the 13th, on Tuesday, enthusiasm's going to surge, opportunities for travel will appear, learning or creative projects can move forward. There can be tension about life direction. We might feel that because of the Jupiter square of the nodes. So to navigate this, I would say just follow inspiration, but avoid overextending yourself, overscheduling yourself, trying to do too many things at one time. Align your actions with some of your long-term goals, all right? All right, so let's take this now through the day. So it looks like you're going to kind of catch the trine and Neptune first thing in the morning. You'll catch the trine to Venus happening at night. And then later in the evening, kind of overnight, kind of going into the 14th on Wednesday, the moon is trine Mars. All right, so we wake up then on the 14th, and this is going to be Wednesday morning, hump day, and the moon is in Sag. Nothing's changing here. To be honest with you, the moon is pretty unaspected most of the day. So that can be good in a sense where we're not kind of getting hit by a bunch of stuff at one time. But honestly, we want moon aspects because it's going to help us get things done. So we feel a little bit of the moon trine Mars early in the morning, but we start to kind of lose that. So the moon's not really going to be doing anything on Wednesday. To me, when I see an unaspected moon, it's just kind of like, okay, we're just kind of free floating. We're doing our thing. We might feel a little bit more kind of independent. We might also feel like this unaspected moon is really amplifying Sagittarius's quest for freedom, right? But you may feel kind of directionless. So you might find yourself bored on Wednesday. You might feel like, well, I was supposed to do something and it fell apart. So now what do I do? And you have some free time. If you have the ability to schedule some off time this week, or that you're going to have a day that's going to be a lighter schedule, or that you just don't want to have an agenda, I advise doing it on Wednesday, because not much is going to get done with some of the unaspected moon. Watch for craving for exploration, maybe make some time for reading or listening to a podcast. Some kind of philosophical reflection can be good. But I'm expecting some potential restlessness can kind of come up from this transit with the moon. Dive into intellectual or spiritual pursuits. Just avoid impulsive decisions or anything where there's no focus. All right, so you guys get a free day on Wednesday, which is perfect. Wednesday's always like my day off, so I plan on doing that this week. All right, so this is now going to take us into what will be the PM hours. Overnight, still not seeing anything. The moon's not in opposition to Jupiter yet. It looks like that's going to happen overnight. And then we're going to wake up on the 15th, which is Thursday, and the moon is still in Sagittarius, but now the moon is very aspected. So Thursday morning, we hit some roadblocks. So first of all, we see the moon square the north and the south node. It's also in opposition to Jupiter. So we see a grand mutable cross. And yet again, situation, circumstances, weather, scheduling, plans, they seem to change. When we have Jupiter square the nodes, we are needing to emphasize communication, learning, and beliefs. And with the moon square its own nodes, it means there's going to be some fateful kind of actions and activities going on. You add into the mix also that we are going to have the moon in opposition to Jupiter, which is going to make, I think, emotions a little bit more emphasized. We might feel that we're a little bit more overly optimistic or a little bit more overly emotional. And then we're going to see the moon come into a trine with Chiron, which can be about emotions and healing and what we're learning about, healing ourselves. We also see Venus is now out of shadow. Can I get a hallelujah for that? Venus who started her retrograde right around 9 degrees. So now she's left that shadow, but she's still reactivating the most recent solar eclipse that we had in March that was in Aries. So there's themes of that eclipse coming back up. And then we're going to see Venus come into a square, the moon come into a square with Saturn. So that Saturn square is going to be right around early afternoon. And oh, by the way, it's squaring at 29 degrees. So it's squaring at an anaretic degree. So it's almost like Wednesday was a free day. And then people are going to look around on Thursday and be like, what the heck is going on? Like there's just so many things happening at one time. All right. So when we break it all down, just looking at the lunar transits before the moon goes into Capricorn in the afternoon, essentially there is this tense, fateful feeling about Thursday. The things that are happening feel like things are at a critical turning point. Mutable squares can be weather changes. It can also be disruptions and issues revolving around philosophy. We can see debates. We can see conflicts in regards to higher education, cultural differences, religious differences, that kind of stuff. So that grand mutable cross feels like a crossroads for many people, and it's facing decisions amid conflicting energies. Do we go to the past or do we move to the future? Venus on that eclipse degree is going to reactivate for some of us relationship and value themes. You got to think back to what was kind of happening, at the end of March of 2025, like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, and what was going on in that area of your chart. Mercury went retrograde conjunct that degree, Venus started its retrograde in that degree, and then the solar eclipse. In my mind, this is the grand finale. This is it. Now that we see Venus leaving, whatever process that we've been going through and kind of figuring out, what do I value? What do I want? What changes am I making when it comes to my health, my relationships with money, my appearance, all in preparation for Saturn to then come into Aries. Wow. So there's a lot going on. I feel like after these squares, and with moon square Saturn, difficulty emotionally relating, we can see some setbacks and some delays. So if you're traveling, if you're flying, if you're doing anything on Thursday, Godspeed, because it does seem like it's going to be a little tricky. And then shortly after that, the moon goes into Capricorn, where then we're going to put an emphasis on Saturn, which, by the way, the moon just squared. So, moon square Saturn is still kind of lingering. Saturn at 29 degrees, which does represent a critical completion point, especially in Pisces, right before we wrap everything up, before we move on to cardinal fire, where something new is born. So much stuff is going on. So I feel like pivotal moments on Thursday are going to come up, and we're going to feel like we're between a rock and a hard place, and we have to pick. And it can mean that it's in relationships, it can be in career, it can be your beliefs. But I think that this is a day where there's going to be some emotional and some spiritual tests. There's going to also be some delays and some setbacks, but we're going to make up for it the next couple of days. We hit some turbulence with the full moon. We hit some turbulence again on Thursday. And then as we're getting to the end of the week, it's like, no, now we're going to break free. We're going to do something different. My advice for navigating Thursday is face challenges with courage, heal old wounds with that moon trine Chiron, and then ground your decisions in practicality. And it's probably going to be a little bit easier to navigate once we get into the afternoon and evening hours. Granted, moon will square Neptune, so we're a little emotionally sensitive or confused or not knowing how to relate. And the moon in Capricorn is a Saturn vibe. So getting work done, maybe you feel like there's kind of not paying attention all day or not kind of staying on task. And then it's like, boom, you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, it's 3:00. I've got 2 hours to get my work done. And then it's just like crunch, trying to get things finished. So that moon's going to keep going through Capricorn. Not going to catch too much. It looks like overnight the moon will keep going through Capricorn into Friday, and then we wake up Friday morning, the 16th, to the moon in a square to Venus. All right, so that's not particularly easy. But on the other hand, it's also going to be coming into a trine with Mercury. And also, Venus is debilitated in Aries, right? It's in its opposite sign of Libra. The moon is debilitated in Capricorn. It's in its opposite sign of Cancer, and then they're squaring each other. Ooh. So Aries is the self, and then Capricorn represents authority figures, government, leaders, bosses, So there's like a lot of like going into work on Friday being like, oh, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to get stuff done. I'd rather be doing other things, or feeling like, we're not as attractive, as lovable, something is not meshing emotionally with what we're expected to do in our responsibilities versus what we would rather be doing and like what feels good. So we're not really going to feel like we're hitting all of the pleasure sensory points that we're wanting. Food, relationships, money, things aren't going to be hitting as well on Friday morning, and we might feel a little discouraged. My advice is that to work your way out of that is to lean into the moon trine Mercury, where we can get very grounded and practical and talk about what we do need to get done. Taurus is going to be about, food, budgets, resources, spending, banking. Capricorn is about management. So we can kind of go, okay, I'm not happy with, the state of my wardrobe. I'm not happy with the car that I have. I'm not happy with, my relationship dynamic. What can I do about it? How can I communicate and express and also talk about, how I can actually fix or better some of these scenarios and situations. Rather than complaining, it's about finding a solution. Anyway, so that Capricorn moon, I feel like, is very disciplined, but there's some friction with the square to Venus. And I think that really, Capricorn moon aligning with Mercury and Taurus, there's practicality there. Only problem is that, Venus in Aries is very independent. We might see that there is some stirring up of relationship tension, and that can be with authority figures, bosses, relationships. On Friday, I would say we can see progress in work or planning, and this can be a good thing. There's just likely going to be some clashes over desires versus responsibility. So to kind of navigate that, prioritize long-term goals, right? Communicate to calmly resolve conflicts. Be slow and steady. There is no rush. Earth signs teach us to take our time. And I also feel like, as we're getting into the weekend, if we can get all of our work done on Friday, we're going to have a beautiful weekend to play as we're seeing Venus and Mars starting to come into a trine. So if we look at how this is going to play out throughout the day, you will catch the trine to Mercury late morning, and then midday you will see the moon come into a square with Venus. So try to get as much done as you can earlier in the day. That's my advice. And then the moon's going to keep going through Capricorn, and it's going to be relatively unaspected. I mean, yeah, it's going to, quincunx or in conjunct Mars, and that's saying the same thing. We want to play, we're making plans for the weekend, but we have work to do. So that's going on. Moon's going to keep moving through Capricorn on Friday night. Some people might not be out celebrating, partying, doing things. They might be, still working or working late, or they've got a project they need to be kind of completing, or there's just more responsibility on a Friday night than kind of normal. But don't fret, because as we get into what's going to be Saturday and Sunday, completely different vibe. Maybe it's just me. I'm super Saturnian. I got 4 planets in Capricorn. I work on Saturdays literally in honor of Saturn. So take this with a grain of salt. But Saturday is a great getting something done day, right? So if you work like a Monday through Friday job and you're like, no way, Saturday is my free time. Trust me on this. I am loving Saturday. So we're going to see the moon, even in spite of being in Capricorn, where it can be a little stern and gloomy, the moon is going to start coming into a trine with the sun in Taurus. Okay, this is good. This is where our energy and our emotional kind of tendencies, they're able to work together. The moon, which is ruled by Saturn, is also going to sextile Saturn and the North Node. So if you have something you need to get done, I don't care if it's working on a project, if you need to clean out the garage, if you just need to kind of, finally go and plant some stuff in the garden, whatever it is you have to do, get something done on Saturday. Have a plan because you'll be able to really get a lot completed. Capricorn and Taurus really know how to work together well to, I think, like build things. Something else that we're also going to be seeing is that we are going to start feeling the conjunction of the sun and Uranus kind of coming together. So this is going to be happening on the 17th. Maybe you feel it on Friday, definitely on Saturday, and then into Sunday. So that sun-Uranus conjunction will peak. Now we're also going to see, the moon will square Chiron. Okay, so that is like a little bit of like an ouch point where you're like, yeah, there's this thing I have to do and I don't want to do it, but I know I have to take care of it and get it done. And what else? And then this is where Mercury is going to get ready to come into a square with Mars. So there can be some communication tension. So Mercury transits we have to watch, guys. Earlier, around the full moon, we saw Mercury square Pluto, which Mercury was not in superior position. Pluto was. So we felt like there was something that kind of had mental power over us, or something that was kind of driving us crazy. Now in this situation, now that we're armed with information, right? We've had disclosure earlier in the week. Maybe there was some information that came out, or shocks or surprises with other people. Now we're like, okay, well, this thing happened. What are we going to do about it? Mercury square Mars is going to push people to take risks, spend money. It's going to be encouraging people to invest, likely because people are going to go, oh my God, I want to be investing in this thing. I think it's going to go up, or maybe the market's going to kind of bounce in a positive way. And it's going to encourage people to get kind of prepped and ready to be making some investments. So not a financial advisor, but that's just kind of the way that I see it. Wow, Saturday is grounded, thankfully, with that moon. But, I think with the sun and Uranus coming into conjunction, and by the end of the day, the moon is trining that, this is peaking. So it's going to be delivering some breakthroughs. Capricorn moon is all about stability, but I think the square to Chiron, and also Mercury and Taurus squaring Mars in Leo, is going to stir some arguments, right? So what do you expect on Saturday? Well, sudden changes in finances can happen here because of the conjunctions. Let me show it to you. It's so interesting. I believe, so it looks like the moon is going to trine the sun. And I love it like when everything syncs up at the same time. I'm like, this is so cool. So 27 Gemini degree, 27, and they're trining each other. So as the sun is aligning, the moon is there. Well, when the moon goes through Capricorn, we hear from government officials, we hear from bosses, we hear about big business decisions, and likely it's going to be some statements, and I know this is on Saturday, that are coming out revolving around, what decisions we're making about financial stuff, what we're funding, what's going to happen with tariffs, what's going to be going on with trade. And this is on a Saturday where the traditional markets are closed. So people are going to have the opportunity to kind of jump in. They're going to have to wait for Monday to kind of get in on things. Anyway, watch out for the wounds and the arguments, I think, with the Mercury-Mars square. Watch your words. Expect these sudden changes in finances, values, and routine. Watch for the tension that can happen in communication and people's ego getting in the way. Stay adaptable, be open to innovation. This is also about healing insecurities because Chiron's kind of getting dinged during the lunar transits, and avoid reactive arguments. But oh my goodness, what is happening on Saturday night? I don't know. All right, so now we're going to be moving into what's going to be Sunday, and yet another high intensity Sunday. We just can't catch a break. I've noticed it every Sunday. We wake up, moon's conjunct Pluto and Aquarius. So the moon is left Capricorn, right? The sun is still in conjunction to Uranus. Uranus rules, it's the modern day ruler of Aquarius. So something about the moon conjunct Pluto, where the collective is responding very intensely to some transformative, situation, and Pluto's retrograde. So it's about revealing things that have been kind of going on and the physical, financial, or kind of global impact that that's going to have. Fun. It's out of 3 again. Isn't it interesting that we've seen all these Gemini degrees and that Jupiter in Gemini is squaring the nodes? Communication, information, disclosure, honesty is so important this week. It's just like, it's very, very obvious to me that, yeah, not everybody's going to agree with some of the stuff that's coming out. Not everybody's going to agree in conversations, communication, but some things kind of need to be said. So on Sunday, we see moon conjunct Pluto. Thankfully, it is sextiling Neptune. So it is about some people listening to their intuition or kind of tuning out some of the drama that's kind of playing out on the world stage. We are also going to see this sextile Venus in Aries, and then we are going to see it start building by the end of the day to an opposition with Mars and Leo. Fun. And it's also building into what will eventually be a square with Mercury. So more fixed squares, making Mercury the emphasis between Mars and also the moon. And once again, this is saying information in regards to money, resources, the markets, banks. What can I say about this? Well, I think that this is going to be a day where you really start to see the awareness. I think Sun-Uranus transits for me have always manifested as whoa, now I see something. I woke up, I became aware of it, and it's also about power, by the way. Nuclear power, global power. It can also be directly connected to Pluto. So it's about changes that are going on in world powers and world events. The Aquarius moon with Pluto is going to intensify desires for freedom and also for reform. And I have found that when the moon's conjunct Pluto and Aquarius, people are like, that's it, I'm not taking anymore, And fire and air, because there's sextiles happening, is going to be energies that are going to spark creativity, right? But then the oppositions that are kind of building is going to create some friction. So it's still a Saturday, Sunday, anything goes kind of day with the sun conjunct Uranus. It looks like the moon will cross Pluto early in the morning. Then it will start coming into a sextile with Venus. So we might actually feel in the late afternoon going into the evening, it's a little bit more manageable. Looks like we might actually get lucky. We're going to pick up the moon opposed Mars square Mercury very early Monday morning. So we'll talk about that then, but that's also telling me, okay, there's something going on financially over the weekend that is the setup and the trigger then for people to go, okay, I need to make a sudden decision, a sudden move when it comes to what I'm doing with my resources, markets, banks, and how the collective is responding to these things. Hi, another T-square. Boy, oh boy. And right around the time that Venus is leaving shadow, it's just almost there's been information that's been brewing or things that have been planned in terms of economic changes, policy, trade for several months. That's now, as individuals, people are starting to wake up and kind of realize the impact and the implications. Anyway, what can you expect on Sunday? Well, you can expect definitely there could be some power struggles again with some of the squares and the oppositions. But also some collective shifts that are going to be kind of taking place as well. And this is positive because, Venus is, and we're gonna see this at the end of the week. It's happening more going into next week. Venus is starting to come into a trine with Mars. So there can be on Sunday some, creative or romantic sparks that can be kind of happening and taking place here for you guys. Honestly, I feel like leaning into the trine with Mars rather than fighting against it with the Mercury square is the key all week. aligning with what feels authentic, what feels like it's going to make you happy, avoiding battles where people are trying to control you or you're trying to control things. Channel the energy into something that's going to be meaningful change, right? Lean into where the sun and Uranus are in conjunction in your chart. Remember, Mercury, which is the mind, Uranus, which is going to be about the change, and the sun is the awareness. All of this is ruled by Venus. And what sign is Venus in? Aries. What are you changing about your values? How do you want to shift your self-esteem? How are you spending money? What do you value? What do you have? What do you need more of? What can you build yourself? What can you grow? That kind of stuff. And I think a lot of this is about, like I said, individuals becoming aware of how quickly we're starting to see shifts that's going on in the global economy, right? Because, Saturn's in a global sign. It's sextiling this along the way. Granted, it's in the final moments. And I think that this is about some kind of shift going on with international trade, with policies, and how it's the setup for also innovating and making massive changes to the banking system. And I know I've been screaming this from the rooftops, but I've been talking about this since, 2021, when we started to see the Saturn-Uranus squares that were showing up. I think a lot of that was like scaring people and the shakeout from people looking at decentralized financial, markets and investments. I think also we are going to see certain industries just totally rip. And it's going to be connected to Taurus things. So it could be, crypto banking institutions. It could also be that we're starting to see more people are getting on board with seeing, hey, you know what, we need to be talking about metals. We're already seeing that in some states. I think Florida just made that legal tender. Metals and things that can be from the earth and minerals, right? That's Taurus as well. Scorpio too. So we're going to hear more about mineral deals and things like that under the Scorpio full moon. But ride the wave of change, guys. You'll have to let me know what's happening. Leave me comments below. But I do want to give you guys some insight to where this Sun-Uranus conjunction is taking place. And honestly, we've had one every spring for the last several years. So it's not unusual in that sense. I think it's unusual in a sense of just the direct connection and the correlation to the recent Venus retrograde where people have been waking up to stuff. And my God, some of the Mercury squares are going to be wild. So I will be keeping my eyes Saturday, Sunday, Monday on the crypto markets, on the Monday's open. I think there's going to be some news and some information that people are going to be privileged to, that they're going to know is coming. But of course, they release this stuff over the weekend, right? So normies can't do anything with it. Anyway, let's look at the Sun-Uranus conjunction for the 12 rising signs. Let's see how this is going to manifest for you guys. As you know, I'm a Western astrologer, so that's the astrology that I like to practice. And I recommend to make the most of my predictions. Listen to your rising sign first to see in zodiacal order which house the Sun-Uranus conjunction is going to be taking place in. That's the area of your life where you're going to get this kind of surprise. And then also take into consideration that this is conjuncting one another. So it's happening in that area, but it's going to be tied into Leo as well as Aquarius, where we've seen a Mars Pluto opposition, where we're seeing squares, right? And these are also financial signs. So listen for your rising sign first, then your sun sign. You can listen to your moon sign, and you guys can listen for whole sign. If you're a later degree rising sign, you might benefit from listening to the sign after, right? If you use Placidus like me, I know that gets kind of complex, but sometimes some of the conjunctions or the transits will happen in another house. So that's where it pays to know your chart. All right, so we're going to start first with my Aries and my Aries risings, okay? So you guys are going to be experiencing the Sun-Uranus conjunction in the second house. So a lot of what I've said to you might feel quite personal. The second house is going to be about your self-worth. It's going to be about your money in the bank, what you possess, your values. It can even be your personal style. And the sun deals with children, romantic partners. It can also be about taking risks, creativity. And Uranus is going to deal with friends, groups, and allies, as well as your goals. So there's this fusion of what are my goals? What do I want to create? What do I want to do? Kind of happening in the second house, which is going to be very money related. I predict for you guys that you will likely see sudden financial opportunities or disruptions. Unexpected, expenses can pop up, or unexpected income. There can also be a shift in self-value that can kind of manifest from this transit for you. As for an unexpected event, I kind of see this as maybe like a new income stream that can come in, maybe an impulse or a surprise purchase. But to best navigate this, reassess your relationship with money. This is about embracing unconventional solutions. I feel like maybe you might, suddenly invest in something. Maybe you might splurge on a hobby. Maybe you say, hey, you know what? It's worth it to me. I want to have this experience. I want to do something with my friends. But this is also about freeing yourself from material goods as well. So for some Aries risings, it could be less is more, getting rid of things, selling something to a friend, or maybe a friend that's making some kind of a tip or a recommendation about something you should buy or purchase, right? Good luck, Aries. Let me know what happens. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? I kind of feel like this is like the shakeout that happens after the full moon that you had in your seventh house of relationships. Something happens with that full moon and you're like, that's it. You go like full exorcist and you're like, I'm doing my own thing, especially with the conjunction with Algol. I talked about that in another video, but I mean that could very much be being like, a day where you kind of feel like your head's spinning. Sun will conjunct Uranus in your sign. So if you've got anything 26, 27, 28 degrees of Taurus, hold on to your shorts. The conjunction is happening in your first house, which is about your body, okay? It's about also how you kind of portray yourself to the world. First house is like what you do first thing in the morning. It's your identity. It's also about, I think the theme here is about reinventing yourself in some way. So I predict Taurus because Uranus deals with your career, maybe fame, reputation, and the sun deals with your home and family. The way that you're navigating, making changes in your professional life and making changes in your home life, you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it my way. It's just maybe something changes and you're like, I can have both, or I can do it this way. Or maybe there's something shocking about how you navigate your home life or your professional life. So I'm predicting bold changes in appearances, a sudden awareness of your goals, definitely self-expression, which could be great, but it can also feel like it's like a bomb going off, and changes to the way other people see you. So for what's unexpected in terms of events, maybe a spontaneous decision to relocate or revamp your image. I would say to navigate this, embrace authenticity. This is very personal for you. Let go of old, outdated self-concepts of, I have to look a certain way. I have to be this because this is what I am for a living. I have to live in this, fashion. And this is a time where maybe you feel like you need some me time and you don't have to be burdened with the responsibility of home or career. And you just need to kind of have some spontaneity. All right. So let me know how that plays out for you guys. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to do the Sun-Uranus conjunction in Taurus in your natal 12th house. So this is a little bit more spiritual, subconscious, hidden, maybe disrupting your sleep schedule a little bit. Maybe it's subconscious stuff coming up for you. Maybe it's more about spiritual beliefs or just retreating. Watch for precognitive dreams, gut feelings, intuition. That kind of stuff can very much kick up in your 12th house. Now, Uranus is connected to your 9th house of philosophy, travel, your belief systems, education, and the sun is connected to your 3rd house of reading, learning, communication. So it's possible that you stumble upon a book, a podcast, you read something, you learn something that shifts your belief system or your philosophy in some way. But this is very private for you, Gemini. I predict that sudden intuitive insights or vivid dreams are going to come about, and I think they're going to be really prominent. It's about also breaking free from mental ruts, and maybe there's a spiritual practice or a meditation that helps you do that. As for unexpected events that can take place, I do anticipate some kind of spiritual awakening happens or a breakthrough. Maybe this is about having a breakthrough in therapy. Maybe this is about going and getting some energy healing or some Reiki. Maybe this is about exploring a foreign land. Whatever you do, I recommend journaling your insights. Create space for introspection. This is really important. Some of you guys might feel like you're kind of cagey, or you're kind of feeling like, you're restless and you're having issues sleeping. Avoid stimulants, caffeine, nicotine, that kind of stuff this week. It's going to keep you up all night and wired. And really pay attention to your imagination and your intuition, what it's trying to tell you. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You guys are going to experience the Sun-Uranus conjunction in Taurus in your natal 11th house. Uranus is at home here, maybe not in the sign, but in this house it performs pretty well. And Uranus is connected to other people's money, joint finances, incomes, endings, death, beginning, intimacy, secrets. And you've also got the sun that's connected to your money, your resources, your possessions. But Sun Uranus conjunction in the 11th house can manifest as changes within your community, your networks, a surprise party, a spontaneous connection with a friend, your aspirations changing in some way. It can also mean that you're really trying to find your tribe, and there is some unexpected shift revolving around your values in friendships or connections socially. So I predict for you guys, there could be new connections of people that can come in. You're joining a new group, you're starting one, maybe you are getting involved in like learning about finances and investing because of the ties to your second and your eighth house. There can be some disruptions or conflict with friends that can arise, especially revolving around money and resources that can happen. But I think that this can be also about meeting new people who are involved in like tech or just shifting your goals in general. Now, for unexpected events, I feel like an invite to a cutting edge project, a group, or a movement can happen. A surprise party can happen. There can be an unexpected chance meeting with somebody who becomes your BFF. And I think to navigate this transit, I would be networking boldly, putting yourself out there, aligning with groups and people who reflect your evolving values, and being where the people are. Hope that's helpful for you, Cancer. Let me know what fun things pop up for you this week. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? You're going to have the Sun conjunct Uranus in your natal 10th house. And honestly, this is very personal for you. You may not be a Taurus, but well, you're ruled by the Sun. So you are personally meeting with Uranus, and it's happening in your 10th house of career. Sun is you, Uranus is partnerships. This can be clients, business partners. This can also be about spouses. It can be about back and forth that you're doing with clients, your marketplace. And also the 7th house is about challenges. So you may feel like you're kind of in the hot seat, or people are kind of challenging you, or some of your, relationship stuff or your business stuff is like blown out in the open. The good thing about this is that for some, especially single Leo risings, you could meet somebody that could be really prominent. It could be a client, a business partner, somebody who's interested in working with you. Teamwork is the dream work, okay? So use the conjunction to your advantage. 10th house is about career, public life, as well as your reputation. So I'm predicting sudden career opportunities will emerge for my Leo risings. However, it can also be disruptions. So job offers that are getting restructured, sudden, people departing from the workplace, deciding you don't want to work with your business partner anymore, splitting up with a romantic partner and that making like major news, and people finding out. And also the emergence of a new professional identity can be happening, especially at the Gemini degree. So maybe some of you guys are going more in the direction of writing, right? Publishing, teaching, podcasting, like something new is kind of emerging for your potential identity. And I know you guys have been through the roller coaster with Uranus in your 10th house for the last several years, but there's something good that's going to be coming of this. As for an unexpected event, Leo, I think that there could be a surprise promotion or public recognition. Just remember, you're in the spotlight this week, so everybody's going to see what you're doing. Definitely to navigate this, take calculated risks and adapt to workplace changes. I think it's going to be good for you in the long run. Good luck. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? You're going to be doing the Sun-Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus in your natal 9th house and a sister Earth sign. So if you happen to be like a later degree Sun, Moon, or Rising in Virgo, this will be trining you. So you might actually really benefit from some of the spontaneous kind of changes that happen as a result of this transit. Now, the Sun is connected to your 12th house of healing, spirituality, behind the scenes in foreign lands. And you have Uranus, which is connected to your 6th house of work, health, as well as habits and routine. So the Sun and Uranus will be meeting in the 9th house, which is going to be putting the spotlight on beliefs, travel, learning, legal matters, teaching, and publishing. So I predict for you guys, there could be a shift in your worldview or a sudden travel opportunity that's going to kind of happen. Maybe new educational pursuits. I think some of you guys are breaking free from your traditional kind of schedule and you're like, that's it, I need to go on a trip, or I'm getting away for a little bit, or I'm going back to school, or I'm going to be exploring some new kind of topic or belief system and having to make the time for that. A lot of you guys are going to be learning about new health habits and techniques as well. So new teachers and gurus can pop in that can help you with that. Maybe exploring foreign lands. And also there can potentially be some kind of like legal tension for some Virgo or Virgo risings that can be popping up revolving around like a work matter. So like if you guys are dealing with like an injury case, or if you guys are, going through a settlement, this can be like a turning point where something's about to go one way or the other. But I would say stay optimistic, especially with the ninth house. I think for an unexpected event, I'm expecting for some of you guys a impromptu trip or kind of dropping into a course that you didn't anticipate that you would be taking. To navigate this, stay open to new perspectives and act, I think, on your wanderlust more so responsibly, because there can be some challenges with how you're navigating these sudden plans when it comes to your schedule or your daily routine. Good luck, Virgo. We have got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You guys are doing the Sun conjunct Uranus in your natal 8th house. And this is in a sign that's unaspecting you. So Libra, some of the things that are coming you may not see. Equally, the Sun is connected to your friendships, your goals, and also your networks. Uranus is connecting to your 5th house of joy, romance, children, and creativity, self-expression. So it will be meeting in your 8th house where the Sun does not shine very well, Libra. And the 8th house deals with a hodgepodge of topics. So on the surface, it's shared resources like tax and matters, insurance matters, spousal, joint income. But it can be about intimacy, sex, transformation. It can also be about death and rebirth. So this happening in your 8th house is going to deal a lot with other people's money and like your investment in other people's money. So it can also be connected to inheritances and money that's owed to you. Now, I think because it's triggering right after a full moon in your 2nd house and the 11th house lord and the 5th house lord, it's like where you've taken some risks and now potentially it's paying off and it's benefiting you in some way. So I do predict changes in joint finances, investments, or intimate bonds. I also think there's going to be some deep psychological shifts that are going to be kind of going on here. As for an unexpected event, Libra, I do think that there could be a sudden windfall, a sudden inheritance, maybe some debt resolution, a relationship or psychological breakthrough, and for some Libra risings, a pregnancy, because it is conjunct your 5th house lord. Now, this is about the psychological kind of connection to intimacy and relationships and vulnerability, or a pregnancy and how a pregnancy could come in and how that would actually impact a joint relationship or financial matter. My recommendation is face any financial or sudden shocking life changes with truth, right? This is about being true, sometimes needing to be vulnerable and saying where you need more assistance emotionally or financially. Embracing vulnerability, I think, is going to be the key here for you, and watch for those breakthroughs that can happen in therapy. Good luck. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, you guys are going to experience the Sun conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus in your natal 7th house. Scorpio, this is taking your 10th house ruler, the Sun, which is connected to career and authority figures, as well as your public persona. Uranus, your private life, what's hidden, your home and your family, and aligning it in your 7th. So think back to the full moon, which for some of you guys, you're watching this, it hasn't happened yet, but the full moon is going to trigger something in your sign, which is going to have an impact on how things play out for the rest of the week with your partner. If you're single, this is probably a little bit easier to navigate, because it can mean that there is a chance opportunity to meet someone, right? They might be different than who you usually date. It could be somebody you could meet at work. It could be some new brewing kind of partnership at work. It could also mean that, there is just somebody who just kind of pops out of the blue. For those of you guys who are in relationships or committed partnerships, you will see sudden changes that will be happening in a close relationship. And it can be more changes to them, something they're going through, appearance stuff. But it can also mean that, they want freedom, they need space, and suddenly there could be potential breakups, separations, or redefining the relationship dynamics between you and them. I do think that for unexpected events, for some Scorpio and Scorpio risings, it can actually be positive. It can manifest as a surprise proposal, right? It could be talking about suddenly, going and getting married and eloping, or even a new business partner. So it's not all negative, but there's going to be some shocks and surprises coming from people outside of you. To navigate this, it's important to communicate openly, allow relationships to unfold and evolve on their own time. Keep in mind that with Mercury square Mars and also with the recent Mercury square Pluto, there's a lot of conversations with other people about the future of your career and also how that's going to be kind of changing and what's going to be impacting your home or your family life. So maybe look to your existing relationships and partnerships for innovative ways to be able to navigate some of these things. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys are going to experience the Sun conjunct Uranus in your natal 6th house, which is obviously in conjunct or quincunx you. So you, like Libra, may not see some of these things coming. For my Sagittarius risings, the Sun is connected to the 9th house, which can be about travel, education, legal matters, your belief system. And Uranus is connected to your 3rd house of communication, documents, also learning, vehicles, transportation, siblings, and neighbors. So with the Sun conjunct Uranus in your 6th house, something that you want to watch for is some spontaneous, unexpected change when it comes to where you're working, the people you're working with, your schedule. It can also be your health or your pets. Now, I'm predicting for some of you guys, there can be obviously disruptions in your daily routine or health regimens. Things like there's a power outage at work and computers aren't working. Suddenly breaking, away from what used to be a pretty structured schedule to being like, actually, I need some time off, or, possibly changing gyms, or there is an unexpected health matter coming up, which derails seeing clients. These things can kind of happen. I don't think it's necessarily negative. For some of you guys who have been wanting to make the jump to being like, I want to work as a contractor, I don't want to be a full-time employee, I want to work for myself, this can be your opportunity. For others who are kind of gig workers and they're looking to kind of pick up shifts, you might find that there's opportunities for you to kind of do that. I do think that your schedule is going to kind of get rocked a little bit by either health, travel, or pet-related things. I would also say that there can be new tech that's coming into work that's going to be really helping you when it comes to productivity. So for unexpected events, watch for a sudden job change or maybe even a health diagnosis that's going to prompt or shift some lifestyle, habits for you. A new job opportunity can arise for some people. That is possible. And to navigate this, what you want to do is experiment with new routines. Prioritize wellness as well as innovations in how you're eating, your health habits, your daily routine. And obviously, Taurus is also about pleasure. So it's about making sure you're working out or eating or working in a way that feels comfortable. And that might sound weird or unusual, but it's about actually taking your time. I would really encourage you guys to keep an eye on your vehicles this week, as well as just being mindful of where new technologies and apps can come into work that can help you become more productive. So it can be scheduling apps, it can be dietary apps where you're tracking your food or your calories, or maybe you're just deciding that you want to kind of switch up or renovate your office space a little bit, bring some crystals in, bring some plants in, and kind of help balance out the energies and neutralize some of the Uranian stuff that's going on. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Sun conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus in your natal 5th house. Happening in a fellow sister Earth sign, if you're a late Capricorn or Capricorn rising, this will be trining you, and the innovative kind of unexpected energies can actually feel very liberating and honestly very fun. So for you guys, you're going to be seeing this happen in the 5th house, which deals with creativity, romance, as well as joy. Now, Uranus rules your personal possessions, money, resources, and self-esteem, while the Sun rules other people's money, resources, as well as inheritances, taxes, intimacy, sex, and vulnerability. So as you see these two planets come into conjunction in your 5th house, it can mean you're taking risks with matters of the heart, like children, romance, or dating, as well as investments, new business opportunities, new startup opportunities, self-employment, or gambling, or investments in stocks or cryptos. So for you guys, I think that this will manifest as unexpected romantic sparks or creative breakthroughs. Yes, I see opportunity for big risk, but also big reward. A shift in what brings you pleasure is going to come about this week. Unexpected things can happen with romantic partners as well as children. I do think for unexpected events, a new love interest or a bold artistic project can present itself. Equally, there can be unexpected pregnancies that can happen during this transit. To navigate this, follow your heart, take creative risks, and above all, have fun. especially because this is going to be an aspect to Saturn in your sign. So some of the creative things you're doing might mean you're learning how to cook, you're learning how to garden. Maybe you are showing your art online. Maybe you're starting a new social media. Maybe this is about traveling and having fun as well. But I do think that this is like the finale. So for some of you guys, it can be the beginning process of some new, romantic situation that's coming up where you're meeting somebody and then you might feel like your relationships are going to stabilize, especially Capricorns with Jupiter going into your 7th house over the summer. This could be a chance meeting that could lead to a long-lasting union. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising, and obviously this is very important and personal for you as well, not just Taurus or Leo, because, well, your modern-day ruler is Uranus, so the conjunction here that's happening is pretty prominent. If you're Uranus, then the sun represents other people, relationships, and partnerships. And the conjunction between the sun and Uranus is happening in the 4th house, where at least whatever is happening is private. Now, the 4th house deals with your home, your family, one of your parents. It can also deal with property. So think about like electrical things with your home, shocks and surprises with family, unexpected moves, renovations, things like that. And you might actually be the person who is instigating some of this change. Now, I predict for Aquarius risings that we're going to be seeing sudden changes in living situations or family dynamics, breaking away from tradition. So maybe you're going and visiting home, maybe you're moving back home, maybe it means that you're having a unique or unconventional living situation that's kind of going about where there is more closeness with family in a unique kind of Aquarian-esque dynamic. I think that this is also about a surprise move, renovations, or some kind of family revelation, especially with aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, because it's at a 27. So it can mean a conversation you have with a parent that's shocking, information that you find out about a sibling, something a neighbor tells you about something that's going on with, their house, which could impact your house. And obviously it represents going maybe from one place to another because it's at a Gemini degree. So some of you guys are moving between 2 homes, or you're bringing 2 families together, or maybe you're moving in with like a relative. So to navigate, I think this really the key here is to redefine what home means to you and stay flexible with some of the family changes. The sun is going to represent children, but it can also represent a spouse. So it can mean that, there is some kind of unconventional situation going on with the family. Maybe you're moving in with a blended family. Maybe it means that, there's some tension or friction going on in a relationship over a home or family dynamic. I think for the most part with the sextile to Saturn, you can navigate it. I also feel like some of you guys are trying to save money. So in order to do that, you're actually downsizing your living with family. And that even though it feels like a little staticky, after some of these conjunctions that you're going to see, things are going to kind of calm down a little bit. Okay? So let me know, Aquarius. I'm curious to hear what's happening. Or is it like a family party? Is it like a get-together? It could be that as well. All right, and then we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys are going to experience the Sun-Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus, hanging out in your natal 3rd house. Thankfully, it's going to sextile Saturn in the north out in your sign, so I do feel like it's a little bit easier to navigate. Now, Uranus deals with your subconscious, what's spiritual, what's hidden, and behind the scenes, while the Sun is going to deal with your health, habits, pets, and daily routine. So with the Sun conjunct Uranus happening in your natal 3rd house, this is a house that deals with communication, learning, your local environment, siblings, neighbors, cars, as well as, I think, just communication in general, text messages, emails, phone calls, that kind of stuff, how you're thinking and how you communicate with people. So the mind might feel like it's like on fire with this conjunction later in the week. I'm expecting for Pisces and Pisces rising some kind of sudden news. It can be tech-driven communication shifts, local community changes, maybe new information that's coming out that kind of inspires you to change the way you're working, or something about your health or wellness habits. I do think I would be really paying attention because Mars is in your 6th house and there's some squares. Be careful when you're driving. There can be like electrical issues with cars. There could also be, just issues with stuff breaking down with some of the squares. And I wouldn't be like rushing around. Take time to really think about stuff before you send emails or you have phone calls. Maybe take some notes and write it out before you have meetings with people. Watch for unexpected chance meetings or conversations with siblings or with neighbors. I also think that there is going to be opportunities for you to remain curious or to get curious about like new topics. So you might be adapting to new ways of connecting. There can definitely be some scheduling or some traveling changes that can kind of happen during these transits as well. And also a spontaneous move can happen here. So if you guys have been going back and forth on a move, now you're like suddenly, okay, I want to move or I'm looking for a place to go. But what a fun transit to just go and do like a quick road trip. So if you have the opportunity to get some freedom, take Friday off, go and have some fun over the weekend, it can be cool too. All right, guys. Well, that is what I have for this week's cosmic currents. Obviously, things are electrifying. We're all going to be embracing change and kind of riding that wave. The key here is to innovate and really align with a new set of values that are going to be presented to us at the end of the week. This is our wake-up call to break free and build something new. But let me know, how are you guys feeling with these energies? Share your thoughts, come back throughout the week, leave me comments, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Sharing is caring, and make sure you subscribe. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Make sure you're subscribed for more weekly astro updates, horoscopes, new and full moon reports, and much, much more. Also, if you want to see more about me and my work, if you want to book a session, or if you'd like me to teach astrology to you, check out my website in the links below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter. I promise not to spam you, but I do have a new webinar coming out this month that's all about the Saturn return in Aries. Saturn's entering the sign later this month. I've got everything that you guys need for a Saturn return boot camp. So sign up for that newsletter, check out my products. I've got calendars, I've got mugs, bags, and you can actually buy gift cards for readings with me on my website as well. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. We're seeing lots of growth in the channel, so I just want to say thank you so much. And I will catch you guys back here on Tuesday. And we're having live tarot this week. So on Friday, we're going to be doing live tarot readings, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's going to be 4 p.m. on the Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern Coast. I will see you guys there. Until next time, enjoy this week and let the sparks fly, okay? I'll see you soon.